Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cyber Smart Conversations with Harsha. I'm so delighted to be joined today by Ben Cooper, Manager of Property Technology at Bendel Green Oak. Ben focuses on digital transformation strategy and cybersecurity at BGO, and also leads Bendel Green Oak's steering committees for building system standards and smart pilot evaluation. Ben's career began on the integrator side, designing luxury smart home systems before transitioning to commercial PropTech, where he contributed to and managed projects around the world with Quadrille and BGO. Thank you for joining, and how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk about some prop tech and AI and cybersecurity, all the fun stuff.
Yes, and great to have you, Ben. So today's topic is artificial intelligence changing the real estate. But before we get to those questions, I would love to hear more about you and your background.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned in the intro there that I started on the integration side. So even to backtrack a little bit before then, growing up, I've always been big into technology. When I was a teenager, I liked to play with the Raspberry Pis and big into coding, taught myself few different coding languages, and just a hobby I was always interested in. But for career-wise, I wanted to get into real estate. And during that process is when I really started to see the technology and real estate combination and the growth of smart tech, and realized, you know what, that's actually where I want to be. So I started, as you mentioned, in the kind of the residential smart home market for designing systems for luxury homes and doing the actual installations. Slowly, I began to move up into more design-focused roles, and eventually transitioning into the commercial side of things from residential, which was a big change of pace. Eventually landing at Quadrille, where I was there for I think nearly 4 years, and then now just recently took this role for manager of PropTech at Bendel Green Oak.
Interesting. And you mentioned about Raspberry Pi. So, back those days, Raspberry Pi and BeagleBone, one of the cool stuff to play with.
Yes, yeah, a lot of fun use cases and just things to kind of nerd out on, and it kind of combined into this, snowballed into this career. So thankful for that knowledge base before getting into PropTech.
Yes. Now, coming back to our topic, artificial intelligence in real estate. Artificial intelligence has become a buzzword in many industry sectors. And any business, we see where there is data, it's a good target for artificial intelligence. And there's plenty of data in real estate. So like any other states, real estate, like any other sector, we are seeing real estate embracing the power of artificial intelligence. So can you please share a few examples that you are seeing in the industry, in the commercial or in the residential space?
Yeah, I think two really stand out to me. One would be AI relating to BMS and operations. Taking the data from BMS and being able to build and write operational efficiencies. There's a few companies that are doing that, or even just trending it out with machine learning algorithms. But I think that's a space that we're really seeing a rise in AI, as well as CCTV, which is one that definitely is intriguing for myself. I think there's a lot of good value in these AI for CCTV, to have something centrally monitoring all of these feeds at once and being able to action on threats and issues without having the human interface having to look at all of the various feeds and screens, something that's a little more efficient.
You mentioned about building automation system, because we are seeing a lot of use cases coming on building automation system, where you pull data from building automation system for the purpose of optimizing the operations, energy efficiency, and even seeing the use cases where, we call it predictive maintenance, understanding the data and how well the system is performing, the devices are performing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a use case that we're very interested in learning more about at BGO and diving into. I think just in general in the real estate world, from what I've seen from other people I talk to in the industry, this is something that's coming fast and quick, and a lot of companies are trying to transition into this way of thinking and operating.
Yes, and even with data coming from traditional systems like building automation system you mentioned, elevators, access control, and even these IoT. So we are seeing, there's a potential to improve occupant experience, understanding how well the space is being utilized, operational efficiency, like the example you shared on building automation system, asset utilization. So buildings today, they generate tons of data. It's siloed in some cases and it's connected in some, but it can be used to improve efficiency, sustainability. So smart buildings not only take complete care of the residents and occupants' comfort and safety, but also promote energy and financial savings. Even with these IoT platforms, real estate is coming up with new services to engage occupants and residents. So how do you see, so there are two sides, owners and operators and tenants. So how you see owners and operators, and then on the other side, tenants getting benefit from AI?
Yeah, so I mean, the owners, operators, you're really going to see the benefit from a cost perspective and an ROI. I think anytime that you can, especially the way the industry is right now, anytime that you can lower your OpEx for your properties, especially in office assets right now that are obviously hit the most. Anytime you can reduce those operating expenditures, that's a huge win for the owner operator. From the tenant side of things, it's more of that value add. As tenants when they're looking to lease at spaces, I think more and more now than it ever has before is they're looking for, what are the value add amenities or technologies that are on this site that are going to help drive our the tenants' employees to the office space. And I think what we're seeing is buildings that are rich in these types of amenities and technologies are definitely seeing more and more potential tenants reaching out and wanting to lease space there. So it's become a little bit of a competition amongst the office assets to at least bring them up to the same speed as these other more kind of technologically advanced, if you will, office buildings. So I mean, for the tenant side, I mean, you also have if we're talking, automation, building automation system, AI, there's also a comfortability point there, which you could count that as well as a value add to the tenant.
Yeah, and even with mobile apps coming up for comfort. So anything you want to share on those mobile app experience for tenants?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that it is right now, I mean, you kind of alluded to this previously, is the connectivity of all of our building network devices, CCTV, access control, your building automation system, all of these working together and being able to collect data from all of those sources. You add the mobile app on top of that tenant app, and that's kind of the hub for all of that data to go, and just and gives those tenants a little more information on your building performance.
Yeah. Now coming to the technology side of it, in order to enable these use cases for artificial intelligence, we need to collect data. Now to collect data, there's so much of technology that needs to be put in place, and then connectivity. But these are traditional systems that were not designed with a security first approach. That's one thing. And they are critical systems, like building automation system and elevators. And then in the beginning, you mentioned about one of the use cases around CCTV. So there's concern on privacy. So what are the challenges you see that are being faced in implementation, and what are the cybersecurity concerns around this?
For sure. I think where it starts is how the building network is set up, what the architecture looks like, and how secure the actual network is before you start to get into all of these AI applications. I think you have to look at this from a kind of a bottom up approach, where Your first layer is, your converged network with managed switches and VLANs for your different systems. On top of that, you have your cybersecurity layer with your hardware firewalls, your remote access piece, whatever you're using. If you're using like a secure edge model or some sort of VPN service, that's that next layer. And then once all of that is good, you've got your foundation. Then that's when I think you can start to actually look at these AI applications to invest in and install at your properties, knowing that you've secured the very most important part is the integrity of your building systems and your building network. So that's where I think it starts. The other thing that we definitely have to keep in mind when it comes to security in general is this data transfer, as you mentioned, with these AI applications. And especially CCTV, where we're capturing people and faces, but making sure that data isn't stored anywhere, and making sure that our data governance policies are updated to include language around AI. I think technology is just changing so much that I think we just need to make sure that in any legal or contract documentation that we're including that the possibilities around what a data breach with an AI program would mean, and making sure we have risk mitigations in place to prevent anything coming out from that.
Yeah, those are great points, because you talk about data governance and then putting the language in the contract.
Yeah.
When it comes to handling situations around privacy. Now, coming back to the cybersecurity side of it, is there anything that's around understanding the cybersecurity posture of the vendor that you're bringing in for these platforms, along with managing the security on the building side?
Yeah, so of course, yeah, definitely the conversation has to start with the vendor and understanding exactly what their processes look like. Having cybersecurity insurance, that's an absolute must. Their product being SOC 2 compliant, and the various different compliancy models out there. They need to have a very sophisticated governance policy around how their data is being stored, how their data is being managed through the application. And it definitely, we need to be comfortable when we're looking at these types of applications that we know 100% that their policies are ironclad before we even look to implement. Once we've confirmed that that's the case, that everything's good from that side, then yeah, the next step is to look at the physical network where this is going to be deployed on and ensure that there's no existing vulnerabilities. So what we would do in that case is run a vulnerability scan through one of our partners on the network to see if there's any open systems that we didn't know about. FTP servers are sometimes ones that pop up that we didn't know about before, and we definitely want to make sure everything's locked down, and then make sure they also have the hardware critical pieces like your firewalls or secure edge devices for remote access.
Those are great points, because understanding whether the vendor is SOC compliance and the other cybersecurity and the security aspects of it, because if they get attacked, it cascades to the property.
Exactly. And for BGO, who's we in Canada, we manage properties. I mean, yeah. That's something that we just that's our bread and butter. So if any kind of data breach is going to reflect very poorly on the company, right? So it's something we have to definitely look at go through with a fine-tooth comb and ensure that we've crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and that we've gone through all the different standards.
Yes, I agree with you. Ben, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights, and it's been a pleasure to have you as my guest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.